Okay, yeah. So we're going to get started with the next session. So for this, we're going to go over the TAO User Group, a quick introduction, and just some more details on how to become a member. Sam, I'm going to hand it over to you real quick again, just for another brief intro for anyone that's joining us a little bit later this morning. And then Mark, we'll give it to you to take it from there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so for those of you who are just joining us, I want to introduce Mark Oswald to you all today, who will be leading this discussion around the TAO User Group and introducing the user group as a whole to the community. So Mark is the co-founder and CEO here at Open Assessment Technologies SA, which he launched in 2013 and established as the de facto market leader for open and innovative assessment solutions. Mark is a vocal proponent of interoperability and open standards and has spearheaded achievements with the IMS Global Learning Consortium in the United States to improve standards compliance and provide end users with a strong voice in setting the direction of assessment technology. In recent years, Mark has worked closely with leading ministries of education in Europe to launch Flip Plus, a fast-growing organization that embodies the sharing economy and assessment. And so I will turn it over to Mark to get things started and kick off the user group presentation.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Sam. And so, yeah, we had some good comments in the previous presentation about and questions about how to get more activities or how to get more engagement among the community members. And so today is not just a big day for TAO Days that we're bringing back this user conference, but at the same time, we're also introducing the TAO User Group, which will provide a more transparent and neutral platform for TAO users to collaborate and to set the direction of the open source solutions. And so to understand what we're putting in place here, it's important to explain the dual role that our company is playing. Up until now, you've known OAT primarily as the provider of commercial services around the TAO platform. So from the off-the-shelf cloud-based solutions, TAO Ignite and TAO Pro, to full-fledged enterprise class solutions, which are typically used for international or nationwide assessment programs. And often these enterprise solutions require software development and also advanced support and maintenance, especially technical support and help desk when you're running a highly visible campaign like a baccalaureate or other type of assessment. It's really crucial that you provide the best possible experience, not just to the test takers, but also to, if it's K-12, to the parents and the teachers and the public audience who's following such events. So that is one thing that we do, but the other one, and we've often talked about that, but more on a one-on-one basis when we sit down with customers, is the role we're playing in providing the open source community edition of TAO, which we call TAO Core. And so that is embodied through what in the industry we call the open source program office. And if you look at a generic open source ecosystem, like the ones that Clyde was showing at the end, about the automotive space or the movie making space or the others, they all follow the same principle. So that on one hand, you have consumers of open source software, and Clyde was pointing out that a big part of the Linux Foundation is to encourage people to go from being a consumer to a contributor. And actually, I will have the exact same message here in my presentation, because that is the whole purpose of the TAO User Group that we are introducing today. So on one hand, you have the consumers of open source software, and then on the other hand, contributors. And contributions to open source can be done in two ways, either through funding and paying a developer, group developers to create the software, or if you have in-house developers to contribute source code directly. And the role of the Open Source Program Office is to coordinate all of these activities, because ultimately you want your product to be adopted. And if you just put a repository out with a bunch of files and hundreds of thousands of lines of source code, it's difficult to get adoption. And so to drive adoption, you want to have a product that is easy to download, easy to install, and so forth. And so there's a lot of activities that come together here under this Open Source Program Office. And if we look now specifically at TAO and what's happening in our particular ecosystem, so our company has been or is playing this role, being the Open Source Program Office. And then on one hand, we have examples from major contributors to the TAO stack. So in the blue bubble here, from our own company, contributions that we funded. OAT is a shareholder company. We have investors, ACT, CITO, and LIST, who contributed money to the company to advance the TAO roadmap. But we also have contributions from our end users. And here, for instance, French Ministry of Education, Norway, Italy, Japan, and a lot more. The bubble is too small to list them all, but these organizations essentially, they pay OAT to develop new features, and then we work behind the scenes to integrate these features into the open source distribution. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the consumers of open source software who then come and download the latest version of TAO, deploy it and use it. And so we have numerous organizations here, just listed a few, but essentially that's how the TAO ecosystem works. So for the most part, we as a company get paid to develop new features and then put them out in open source with the open source distribution. And to do that, there's a lot of activities in the background. And so I'm showing them here, like some of the responsibilities. Of course, there's a roadmap, what features to build next. Then when we develop or implement these features, we follow internal best practices. So for coding, for documentation, how to ensure software quality and performance, how to ensure security. So all of these software engineering practices are documented, and our teams follow them to build the best possible products. Then once code is ready, it goes through the pull request process, where as part of the pull request process, it gets reviewed. If there are some issues with the code, it gets rejected or accepted for distribution. And so now you can see here, as we get closer to the actual release of product or new version, so we do the version control, the release notes that come with it, and then ultimately users can come and download the new version of TAO Core, and the latest being version 3.5, which we released not that long ago. And so if you look at all these activities that are happening behind the scenes, of course, it requires a lot of people, from product managers to business analysts, architects, UX and UI design, front end, back end, cloud architecture, QA, help desk. So it's quite an operation that we're driving. And so just to highlight some of the contributions that have come to the market out of this process. And again, this list is not complete. There's other organizations who have contributed, but here you can see how, for instance, we got contributions from New Meridian in the United States, who contributed to creating these atomic roles. We have contributions, this one coming out of Italy with regard to accessibility tools for students when they take a test. Lithuania, so ministries of education from Lithuania and Norway who contributed to TAO Grader for the human grading component of TAO, and so forth. So these are the functionalities that we sit down with our customers and we define them and we ultimately implement them. But if you take a closer look at it, the software that we're building it's not just about features. Of course, as an end user, that is what you tend to focus on, because it is the business logic that you need in order to author your test forms, to provide better guidance to students by analyzing the results and so forth. So you have a natural focus on the business logic. But software is more than just the business logic. There's a lot of under the hood functionalities that are absolutely crucial if you want to have a system that is scalable, that is secure, that is accessible, for instance. So accessibility standards need to be implemented. So all of these things go beyond the features itself, and they cost money too. And one of the things in a separate discussion I had with Clyde was that often when you're trying to grow the community of contributors, end user organizations, they tend to come with a very strong focus on features. And basically, when it comes to funding the development, often end user organizations expect a very specific outcome. I'm putting this money on the table, so I want to get that feature. But if you look at the architecture of a enterprise class software, there's a lot of things that are non-functional and that also need to be discussed. And so TAO, if we look at the current generation 3.5, it's a web application that was architected around a monolithic core. But technology has moved on in big ways over the last couple of years. Cloud native technologies like Kubernetes are now have become very important. Accessibility standards that weren't around when the last user interface of TAO was done in I think 2014. We rolled that out. So the products that have come to market over the last year or two, of course, have been built on these new architectures. They have been designed for accessibility from the ground up. So I'm talking about TAO Advance, the new highly scalable test runner. I'm talking about TAO Grader. And there's another product that just came out called TAO Insights that allows you to do more advanced analytics and reporting. And so all of these components, of course, require a solid foundation. And and when it comes to discussing these aspects, typically what we've done until now, we sit down with the customer, we go through the products, the features, and how it helps them meet their business needs. We talk about additional features that are needed, but it's all happening in a one-on-one environment. And so between us and an individual customer. And the side effect is, and Clyde mentioned that earlier, a key aspect of a successful open source ecosystem is transparency. And when you work one-on-one, kind of OET was always the conduit. So we speak with one customer, and then when we meet the next customer, there's perhaps some things we can talk about by saying, hey, we know somebody else who's looking at doing the same kind of functionality, and then trying to coordinate, but it is not very efficient. And so this approach, it has worked well until this point. But going forward, we want to do even better. We want to change this. And that is the reason why we're introducing the TAO User Group. So what is the TAO User Group? It is, well, a self-governing entity that has a charter that defines the operating principles of this entity, of the user group, the rules, how the user group operates. The user group has a governing board, has a roadmap committee to begin with. And then, of course, we're going to publish an activity calendar. And we're going to provide public records of what happens in the user group. And so rather than having these roadmap discussions one-on-one, we want to have them with the user group. And so essentially, what we're working toward, what we want to implement here with the user group, is that we want to set the technology direction in a much more transparent manner, and also giving users more voice in setting the direction. And Clyde was speaking to that on how to do that. Ultimately, the outcome of this effort is a prioritized roadmap. And the prioritized roadmap, of course, then is the point where we're going to talk about contributions, because ultimately that's what it's about. So we want to get more users coming out of the green bubble here, who are consumers of open source, and have you participate in defining the technology direction, but then also helping us implement it. And so there are two ways to do that. The one we've applied over the last 10 years was based on an end user paying OAT to develop a feature and then contribute back. And we want to open that up to also accepting outside software contributions. And we know from the Linux Foundation that this is not something that's going to happen overnight. In a first step, OAT will have to publish its coding practices and make those available for outside developers to follow. The process also calls for very strict reviews of outside code before they get accepted in a TAO distribution. So these are all the mechanisms we're planning to put in place and to accelerate the roadmap through this mechanism. The benefits we're getting from this is transparency. So by having anyone who's interested in advancing TAO to work with us on setting the direction, and then also working with the user group on ways on how to get it funded, or how to secure contributions. And we believe that ultimately it makes for a future-proof product architecture, and that is also very attractive from a feature point of view. So that is the objective of the user group. Here, just want to highlight the charter. So you see the structure of the document, the different bodies that operate within it. There are rules on how to fill certain positions. There's code of conduct, there's an intellectual property policy in it, and how to amend the charter. So all of that has been documented. We've been reviewing it with a number of our largest users. So we got a lot of feedback on the charter, and the document is now in its first version. A big part of the user group is the roadmap committee, because like I said, it is very much focused on advancing TAO technology, both non-functional and functional. And so the roadmap committee activities will be chaired by my colleague, Dragos Ivan. He's TAO product manager with OAT. And we have members who confirmed their interest in participating in roadmap activities. And here I'm happy to announce our long-term partners and customers. So CITO, DAP, Invalsi, NFER, NSA, and UDIA have all confirmed they would participate in roadmap activities. And so to give a bit of color here, so you know what's in store for here with the user group, I want to share with you the activity calendar. And so you can see how much it is focused on the roadmap. So we want to start at a high level. So the first area of activity is to take epics and refine them into stories. Then in a subsequent step, we're going to do estimations starting at a high level. And we'll have a conversation just after this presentation with Dragos, and we're going to explain in a bit more detail how this is going to happen. And then once we have estimations and we understand dependencies, then we can work on setting priorities. And then last but not least, once we know where we want to focus our energy, then we're going to look at how to make it happen. So this is the circle or the cycle of the TAO user group, and it mimics basically the projects that are already active for many years under the Linux Foundation. And the charter, actually, we borrowed it from the Linux Foundation. We made a few adjustments specific to the TAO ecosystem. And after a few revisions, we're now ready to get the ball rolling. And so I'm just want to turn quickly to Ashley here. How much time do we have for this presentation still?
You have about 5-10 minutes, so we can go a little bit over because we have a 10-minute break in between, so we can go a little bit over.
All right. So here, so just to go maybe just one layer deeper, looking at the different parts of the process here. So from epics to stories, here we're talking about workshops that we're going to be organizing that will be open to all TAO users to come and sit down with our product managers and business analysts and to work through the different epics and stories. And we have a wish list that was already, that was essentially compiled by us based on input and requests from a wide range of users and customers. So that's where we want to start. And it touches on all aspects of the assessment cycle. So from authoring, item banking, psychometrics aspects, test delivery, grading, analytics, and of course also more classroom oriented, because assessment is not exclusively about standardized assessments. There's also a lot of work happening in the classroom. And so we want to look into that area as well. And so through a series of a couple of sessions, we want to refine the requirements. And then, like I explained, so once we have them refined enough, then we can give them to business analysts and software engineers to look at the development effort, and then use that as feedback or input rather for the roadmap committee. And then the role of the roadmap committee at that point is to look at the estimates, bring order to it, and agree on development candidates. And at the end, we will be able to publish a prioritized roadmap and then work with the governing board on how to get it funded. And as I explained before, I would like to repeat it here. So funding can take, contributions can take multiple forms. One is to under a contract with OAT, to have OAT develop the functionality and then put it back into the distribution. Another scenario would be for TAO users to form a consortium, an independent consortium, and fund development activities through that consortium, maybe by doing a call for tender, for instance, to develop these. And then a third scenario would be for users to make their own software engineer, if they happen to have an engineering team, to make these resources available and have them work as per the TAO coding practices, with the goal to develop functionality and then submit it as pull requests and ultimately get it included in a official TAO release. So these are the different ways on how contributions can be secured, and the governing board, of course, will be an important player in driving this particular activity. So that's in a nutshell what how we're going to handle roadmap discussions going forward. To participate, the user group is open to all users, so you can shoot us an email here, tug@taotesting.com, with your name, perhaps your organization you're with, your role, any comments you would like to share. So TAG, TAO User Group at taotesting.com. You can contact us this way, or just scan this QR code. It takes you to a form to fill out. And then in the coming days and weeks, we will then be reaching out to the group with specific dates where we're going to engage and work through these different activities. So that's pretty much, 30 minutes what I wanted to share with you. So we're launching this today and hope to get a lot of you to be excited about this, as excited as we are, and participate in the user group.
All right, thanks, Mark. That was so quick towards the end, so it was great that you were able to fit all of that in there. Also, we do encourage everyone to scan the code and sign up. It doesn't matter the size of the organization, how many users you have, everyone is invited and welcome to join. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to transition over to our next presentation with Mark and Dragos to talk a little bit about the roadmap calendar and upcoming activities for the TAO User Group.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.